An 8-year-old boy stopped walking in the middle of the street and felt his whole world crack open. He was not hurt. Nothing had fallen. No one had called his name. He was staring at a necklace. A silver chain with a tiny moon-shaped pendant hanging around the neck of a complete stranger. And that necklace, with its small crack near the edge and the engraved initials on the back, had been sitting in a locked box under his mother's old bed for 3 years. Hidden there by her own hands the night before she disappeared. 8-year-old Daniel knew that necklace better than he knew almost anything else in his life. His mother had worn it every single day. She had it on when she made his breakfast. She had it on when she walked him to the park. And she had it on the last night he ever saw her, when she pressed it into his small hands, closed his fingers around it, and told him to keep it safe no matter what. He had kept it safe, locked in that box, untouched for 3 years. So how was it hanging around a stranger's neck on a wet evening street? If you are new here, welcome. This channel tells the stories of real people who faced the unthinkable and found their way through. If this story keeps you watching until the very last word, subscribe now and stay close. Because what Daniel was about to uncover would change everything. Now let's begin. The man was tall, expensive coat, gold watch. He was standing beside a black car parked at the roadside, talking on his phone in the low, controlled voice of someone used to being obeyed. Daniel stood a few feet away and stared at the necklace. He told himself he was wrong. He told himself that similar necklaces existed, that his mind was playing tricks the way it sometimes did late at night when missing his mother became too heavy to carry. But he was not wrong. 3 things confirmed it. The tiny crack near the lower edge of the pendant, which had happened when his mother dropped it on the kitchen tiles, and Daniel had cried, and she had laughed and said broken things were still beautiful. The way the silver caught the streetlight and threw it back warmer, almost golden. And the initials engraved on the back. M and D. Mary and Daniel. He took 1 step forward. How do you have my mother's necklace? The man lowered his phone and turned. His eyes moved down to the small boy on the pavement holding bread and staring at his chest. He did not look confused. He looked caught. Shock crossed his face fast, then vanished. His hand came up and pushed the pendant inside his shirt, and his expression went flat. What did you say? That necklace, Daniel said. My mother gave it to me before she went away. I kept it in a box at home. Someone took it. The man stared at him. Something moved through his eyes, complicated and fast. Then fear settled into his face, quiet and real. And without another word, he got into the car and drove away into the rain. Daniel stood alone on the pavement, heart hammering. Only one explanation made sense. Someone had broken into their apartment. Someone had found the box. And that someone had just driven away rather than answer a single question from an 8-year-old boy. Daniel did not sleep that night. He lay in the dark and went back over the last night he saw his mother. He had been 5. She had come home, moving fast and quiet through the apartment. She had come to his doorway, seen his eyes open, and crossed the room and held him without speaking for a long time. Then she opened the box under the bed. She took the necklace out, held it for a moment, and pressed it into his hands. Keep this safe for me, no matter what. Then she kissed his forehead. Then she was gone. His grandmother Nora had told him gently that his mother had gone away and would not be coming back. Daniel had folded that information up and put it away and kept living. He had become good at carrying things quietly. But in the morning, he made a decision. He went to the grave. The cemetery sat behind an old stone church at the edge of town. Daniel walked between the rows until he found the stone with her name on it. Mary Evans, beloved mother, 1989 to 2023. He crouched down. The soil near the front of the grave had been disturbed. Pressed back down recently, but not carefully enough. Someone had been digging here and tried to make it look undisturbed. He pressed his hand flat against the cold earth. Then a branch snapped behind him. He turned. An old man stood between the graves watching him. Weathered face, tired eyes, a rake in one hand. Edwin, the cemetery caretaker, who had been tending this churchyard for decades. You shouldn't be here alone, Edwin said. Someone has been digging here, Daniel said. Edwin looked at the disturbed soil. His expression did not change the way a surprised person's expression changes. It stayed heavy and still. "I know," he said quietly. Daniel stood up slowly. "Then we need to talk," he said. The caretaker's small office smelled like old paper and candle wax. Rain tapped against the window. Edwin sat behind his worn desk and looked at Daniel the way adults look at children when they are deciding how much truth to give them. Then he seemed to decide that all of it was appropriate. "Your mother came to me 2 weeks before she disappeared," he said. "She had been attending this church for a year, always sitting alone, never staying to talk. That morning she waited until everyone left, and she came to find me." Daniel sat still and listened. "She told me she was in danger, that she had managed it carefully for years, but that something had changed and she did not have much time. She asked me to place a grave marker with her name on it, to make it look as though she had died." "She faked her death," Daniel said. "Yes. She said it was the only way to make the people hunting her stop looking." Edwin paused. "Leaving you with your grandmother, with a convincing story, was the best protection she could give you. She was not abandoning you. She was hiding you in plain sight." Daniel looked at the desk. "The man I saw last night has her necklace. Tall, dark beard, expensive coat." Edwin opened the desk drawer and placed a photograph on the table. "Did he look like this?" Daniel looked at it. Same sharp eyes, same strong jaw, same expression of someone used to controlling every room he entered. "Yes." "Who is he?" "His name is Victor Hale," Edwin said. "He is your father." The room went quiet. "Your mother and Victor were both involved with a criminal organization years ago. They moved stolen money and trafficked people. Your mother secretly worked with federal investigators to build a case against them from the inside. When someone betrayed her identity, the organization came for her. Victor helped her escape with you. You were not yet 2 years old. He helped her. He chose her safety over his own. After she disappeared, she cut all contact to protect everyone, including him. Victor has spent 3 years searching for her." Edwin held up the photograph. "He came here 3 nights ago asking whether the grave was real. I told him the truth. Then I believe he went to your apartment and took the necklace because it was a signal your mother had told him about long ago. A key to something she left behind." Daniel leaned forward. "Left behind where?" Edwin reached into the drawer and placed a small folded piece of paper on the table. Daniel opened it. 6 words in his mother's handwriting. "Train station. Locker 214." Daniel went home with the note folded inside his shoe. His grandmother Nora was at the kitchen table when he came in, sitting with a cup of cold tea and the expression of someone who had been waiting for a difficult conversation. She looked up. "You went to the grave," she said. Not a question. Daniel sat across from her. "You knew she didn't really die." Nora was quiet for a moment. Her hands moved around the cup. "She called me once, 3 months after she left, from a number I didn't recognize. She said you were the reason she was still fighting, that I had to keep you safe and ordinary and unnoticed." Her voice was steady, but her eyes were not. She said if a man named Victor ever came looking, I should not turn him away. Daniel nodded. Then he went to his mother's old room, pulled out the box, and unlocked it with a hairpin the way he had practiced once just to know that he could. The necklace was gone. Victor had taken it. But everything else was still there. Old cash. 2 passports with his mother's photograph and different names. Photographs. And, at the bottom, a videotape with 1 word written on it in his mother's handwriting. Daniel. He stared at it for a long time. Then he closed the box, tucked it under his arm, and went to find his father. Edwin knew where Victor was staying. A small guest house on the edge of town, paid in cash, registered under a false name. Victor opened the door before they knocked. He had been watching the street. He was taller up close, broader. He looked tired in the way of someone who had not slept properly in years. His eyes moved from Edwin to Daniel, and something in his face cracked slightly at the edges. He looked at Daniel the way people look at something they thought was gone forever. "You have the box," he said. "I have the tape," Daniel said. "You have the necklace. We both have questions. So let's talk." Victor stepped back from the door. They sat across from each other with the box on the table between them, and Victor placed the necklace beside it. Daniel looked at his father properly for the first time. He had expected coldness. That was what he had built in his imagination on the days when the absence of a father pressed down on him. What he found instead was exhaustion and pain and something that looked very much like guilt. Victor talked for a long time. He described the criminal organization, his role in it, the years of telling himself his involvement was minor. He described Mary going to federal investigators and, when she finally told him, his decision to help her. He described the 2 hours of warning they received before the organization moved on them, the drive through the night, the false documents, setting them up in a new town, and leaving because staying together made them easier to find. I thought distance was protection, he said. I was wrong. He had spent 3 years following threads, and 8 months ago he had received information that Mary had been taken, that the organization had found her while she was building a new case with international investigators. She was 3 weeks from handing everything over, Victor said. They took her before she could. Daniel felt cold. Is she alive? Victor looked at him directly. Yes, I have confirmed that. I know where she is being held. He paused. But I need what is in that locker before I can move. Your mother left everything the investigators need. Names, accounts, transactions. 3 years of evidence. Daniel stood up. Then let's go get it. Victor held up one hand. First, he said, you need to see this. He took the videotape and crossed to the small television in the guesthouse room. He connected the old tape player with practiced hands and pushed the tape in. Static. Then Mary appeared. Daniel's breath left him in one sharp, silent rush. She was sitting in a bare room under a single light, looking directly at the camera. Thinner than he remembered, tired around the eyes. But her eyes themselves were exactly the same, dark and warm and steady. Victor sat on the edge of the bed and did not look away from the screen. Daniel, she said, I don't know how old you are when you watch this, but knowing you, I think you've figured out more than anyone expected. Edwin stood near the door, perfectly still. I need you to understand why I did what I did. The people I was fighting were connected to governments and banks and powerful institutions that had every reason to make sure no evidence ever reached anyone who could act on it. Disappearing completely was the only way to fight them from a position they couldn't see. Her voice stayed steady. Walking away from you was the hardest thing I have ever done. Every day since then I have thought about your face. You have been the reason I kept going. Victor's head dropped. His hands pressed together between his knees. Victor is not a bad man, Daniel. He made serious mistakes, and he has lived with them. But when the moment came that mattered most, he chose us. Whatever you feel about him, know that for me directly. She looked into the camera, and her expression shifted into something so personal that Daniel felt it settle in the center of his chest. I am coming back to you. That is not a hope. That is a fact. I just need you to be brave a little longer. The tape ended. Black screen. The 3 of them sat in the quiet. Then Daniel reached over and picked up the necklace from a table. He turned it over in his hands and looked closely at the chain. There, threaded so neatly behind the pendant it was almost invisible, was a small key. He looked up at Victor. She hid the locker key on the necklace, Daniel said. Victor nodded. She trusted that whoever found it would know what to do with it. Daniel held the necklace out. Then let's go. The train station was quiet that night. The last passengers of the evening moved through mostly empty platforms. Victor walked straight to the lockers along the far wall. Daniel walked beside him. Edwin followed a few steps behind. Locker 214. Victor worked the small key free from the chain and put it in the lock and turned it. Inside was a single sealed envelope, thick, heavy with what was folded inside. Victor picked it up and turned it over. On the front, in Mary's handwriting, for Agent Reyes. Eyes only. Who is Agent Reyes? Daniel asked. The one federal investigator your mother trusted completely. The one person on the inside who was never compromised. Victor held the envelope carefully with both hands. This is everything. Every name. Every account. everything she spent 3 years gathering. He looked at Daniel. We get this to Reyes. Then we bring your mother home. Daniel nodded once. Then let's move. Getting the envelope to Agent Reyes took 4 days. Victor moved carefully and quietly, the way a man moves when he has spent years learning which routes are watched and which are not. Daniel went to school. He came home. He did his homework. He carried the waiting the way his mother had taught him to carry hard things, quietly and without making a fuss. On the 4th night, Victor came back to the guest house and sat across from Daniel. Reyes has it, he said. She has already moved on the first arrests. The people holding your mother are being dealt with tonight. Daniel felt something loosen in his chest, something that had been pulled tight for 3 years. Hours, Victor said before Daniel could ask. Just hours now. They waited together. Nora came and sat beside Daniel and held his hand without saying anything because there was nothing to say that the sitting and the holding did not already say better. At 2 in the morning, Victor's phone lit up on the table. He read the message. Then he set the phone down and pressed both hands over his face, and his shoulders moved once with something that was not quite a breath and not quite a sob. Then he looked up. She's out, he said. She's safe. Mary came home on a Tuesday evening. A car pulled up outside the apartment. A door opened. A woman stepped out who moved carefully, like someone still remembering how to feel safe. She looked up and saw Daniel standing on the pavement. She stopped. He stopped. 3 years of distance collapsed in the space between one breath and the next. He walked to her, and she came to him, and they held on to each other without speaking. He could feel her breathing. That was the thing he noticed most. The simple fact of it, solid and real and present. Nora stood in the doorway with her hand pressed over her mouth. Edwin stood beside the car with his hands folded, saying nothing. Victor stood a little apart from all of them. Mary looked up and met his eyes over Daniel's head. A long look passed between them, full of everything that had happened and everything that could not yet be easily spoken. Then she held out her hand. He crossed the pavement and took it. That was enough for now. That evening, after dinner, after things had settled into something resembling ordinary, Daniel and his mother sat together on the front step as the neighborhood went quiet. The necklace was in Daniel's hand. I didn't fully understand why you left it, he said. I thought it was so I could remember you. It was, she said. And it was a message. And it was a key. All 3 things at once. She paused. When you love someone the way I love you, everything carries more than one meaning. The necklace was goodbye, and it was also I am coming back. Both things were true at the same time. Daniel turned the pendant in his fingers. The tiny crack. The engraved initials. I was angry for a long time, he said. I didn't know what I was angry at. You had every right to be. I'm not anymore. She put her arm around him, and he leaned into her and felt the warmth of her that he had carried in his memory for 3 years like a note kept in a pocket. She reached over and closed his fingers gently around the necklace. Keep it, she said. It was always yours. I just needed to borrow it for a while. Daniel looked out at the quiet street where 3 weeks ago a small boy had frozen on the pavement and felt his world crack open. It had cracked open. But broken open is not the same as broken. Sometimes the most terrifying moment of your life is also the beginning of the truest thing you will ever find. Daniel had walked into the wreckage of everything he thought he knew, and on the other side of it found the truth. Not a comfortable truth. Not a simple one, but a real one. His mother was alive. His father had chosen them. And the people who had tried to destroy his family had been brought down not by weapons or power, but by one woman who refused to stop and one small boy who refused to look away. This story is about what love looks like when it has no easy options. Mary did not leave because she wanted to. She left because every path that kept her close to Daniel also kept danger close to Daniel. She chose the kind of pain she could bear more easily than the alternative. That is what real love sometimes looks like. Not warm and visible and close. Sometimes it looks like an absence. Sometimes it looks like a locked box and a key hidden on a chain and years of silence that were never silence at all, but were one long act of protection. Victor made serious mistakes. He did not excuse them. He simply, when the moment came, chose differently. That is the truth about people. We are not permanently defined by the worst choices we have made. We are also capable, given the right reason, of choosing better. And Daniel, 8 years old, no power and no resources and no one telling him what to do. Just a boy who saw something that did not make sense and refused to pretend that it did. Who kept asking questions, even when the answers were frightening. If you are carrying something hard right now, keep going. The truth does not disappear because it has been hidden. And the people worth finding do not stop being worth finding just because the distance feels impossible. If this story stayed with you, please share it with someone who needs it today. Subscribe if you are new here. Every story on this channel is told with complete honesty and complete care. We do not soften pain. We honor it. Because somewhere out there someone is watching who needs to know that survival is real and that love, even when it goes underground for a while, has a way of coming back. The next story is waiting. We will see you there.